Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to our 147th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us on this call, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is a 2-hour AMA, meaning Ask Me Anything, like you see on Reddit. Ask me business questions, personal questions, anything you want to, and I'll humbly do my best to help you take your career to the next level. Now, I ran a second late there today, so I didn't have time to put this stuff on my face, but I'm going to do it. Most people that are on camera, they have, like, I've been interviewing television, they put this stuff in your face to stop you from being shiny, so I'll keep it real, Now, in terms of COVID, I'm over it, but not perfect yet. And I wear this ring, which I've mentioned before to all of you, called the Oura ring. It's a little bit pricey. I'm on the fence whether or not I would recommend it, but my readiness score is 80 today, and usually it needs to be about 90 or so before I can exercise a lot. So these things are great to tell you if you are going to get sick, or if you work out when you're sick, you'll get sicker. And in the NBA, almost every player underneath their wristband, they wear a similar device to this. You can use a Fitbit as well, which is a lot cheaper. They use another device that's a little bit more expensive. Now, what I want to do before I take your questions is I want to talk about the interest rate hikes that we've seen around the world. The Bank of England raised rates this morning by 0.25%, which is not as extreme as what the United States Federal Reserve did yesterday, where they raised rates by 0.75%. I'll talk quickly about the mechanics as to why they're doing this and what this means for your investments and what stocks to potentially buy right now, as well as how to make money from stocks going down. That's right. All right, so I'll kick it off with what's happening around the world. So as we know, inflation is a material issue. And the issue is because of Russia, almost entirely now because of Russia, because oil prices are much higher and the poor people in Ukraine can't work on their farms. And the bulk of exports to North Africa and many countries when it comes to wheat comes directly from Ukraine, where their GDP is down 50% year over year. So what's happening is prices have risen all over the world. And what governments have to do is they have to raise interest rates in order to cool off demand. If they raise interest rates, it stops us from spending money. And I know it sounds harsh, but they have to do it. Because what happens is if they don't control inflation rates, then we don't have an economy. And it's gotten really bad in some countries over the past couple decades. For example, the daily inflation rate in Zimbabwe during September of 2008 was 98%. And a couple years ago, the daily inflation rate in Venezuela was over 1,000,000%. And so in Venezuela, they had to cancel their currency called the fuerte, ironically, which means strong in Spanish. And so what governments do is they raise rates to cool down the economy. And it's a smart thing to do in the long run, although it's painful now, I know. It's a smart thing to do in the long run, because when the economy is not doing well, the best way to jumpstart the economy is to actually cut rates, okay? And when governments cut rates, what they're doing is they're flooding the market with more currency. And we know that when supply of anything increases, then the value goes down, meaning interest rates go down. So how can you profit from this? Well, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago to buy government bonds if the rate is, or if the rating is attractive enough in your country. Now, if you're in the United States, you can go to treasurydirect.gov and buy bonds that are risk-free. That's right, risk-free, that will earn you 9.62% per year. And so what people are doing now, because rates are getting higher and the yields on safer government bonds are getting higher as well, what people are doing is they're not investing in stocks or any risky asset class. Now, my students ask me a lot about comparing and contrasting the current inflation rate environment to the early 1980s. Well, things aren't as bad today at all compared to the early 80s. Now, in the early 1980s, you had inflation and interest rates close to 20%. It was awful. But back then, you also had unemployment that was 10%. You know, today inflation is less than 10%, and unemployment here in the United States is less than 4%. So things are not as bad today as they were back then. Now, the ways to think about making money in an environment like this, and we're officially in a bear market, And a bear market is defined as the market pulling back more than 20% from the peak. And so between January 3rd and today, the market is down just over 20%. That means we're in a bear market. And so what people are doing is they're buying higher dividend yielding stocks. And one of my great students in my MBA program named Adiposi explained what he's doing, which is smart. He's using what's called the dogs of the Dow theory to invest. And what that means is this. Now, the 30 safest stocks in the United States are part of the Dow Jones Industrial Index. There's 30 of them. And what he's doing is he's taking the 10 stocks that are part of the Dow 30 that have the highest dividend yields, because those won't go down as much because you have a dividend as a safety net. That's one way to do it. Another way to look to invest is to actually do a lot of fundamental research, okay, and valuation-based research as well on your favorite companies, and I'll show you how in a second. And then what you do is you look at technical analysis. Now, I always mention to look at fundamentals and valuation first and technicals a distant third. But if you look at technical analysis and you see a stock that has an RSI, meaning a relative strength index of 20, it means it's oversold, and it's a good time to start nibbling if you like the long-term prospects of that company. Now, let me show you a couple templates that I provide my students in my MBA degree program. So in my MBA degree program, there's 4 semesters, okay? And I'm going to go to EMS, that's Economics Management and Strategy, semester 4, class number 2. And I'm going to show you a download here that I provide my students with. And this download will help you understand, and you have to click it here and then download. And I talk about this in much more detail in my MBA program. But this download here will help you analyze stocks like professional investors do. And I humbly believe there's nothing like this on the market right now. It's based on all of my work experience working in venture capital, working at Goldman Sachs, working in the hedge fund industry at Citadel, and starting my own hedge fund as well. That's me buying time while this opens up here. Okay, it's 30 megs. So the way this works is, and I apologize for the size here, it might be a little bit difficult for people to read, but there's 100 steps to analyzing a company. And I ask you 800 or 900 questions in this, and based on all of your answers, I help you create a target price and a research report. So up here at the top, and again, this is part of my MBA degree program, which you can sign up for today and start today at harounmba.com. There's 3 parts to this. There's qualitative investment research up here, okay? Meaning, what are the catalyst drivers? Is this a secular growth company or a cyclical growth company? Target markets, etc. Then here we have the second category, which is quantitative research. And on each of these tabs, you can click here to watch a video that will tell you much more about how to actually populate that tab and what all that stuff means. And then down here, we have financial research, everything you need to know in terms of modeling and coming up with a target price on a company. Now, as you step through this, what happens is the data populates directly into a bunch of charts here. Okay, I like to visualize everything, and it's a fun way to invest as well. Also, an executive summary is created for you. Now, earlier today at the start of this call, I talked about investing based on fundamentals first, valuation second, and a distant third, technical analysis. And so everything you enter into this spreadsheet gets fed directly into this. And what you can do is, and I love creating one-page snapshots of my investment theses, etc. And they love this in business as well because less is more. And so what comes out of this, and this is just dummy data, is a one-pager with fundamentals, valuation, and technicals. And you can put your name at the bottom as well if you're applying to work for an investment job, or even put this on the back of your resume. It'll help you out tremendously. What also comes out of this here is a detailed report. Okay, 150-page detailed report. And I promise you, if you do a ton of research on stocks, you can outperform the markets and other big hedge funds and mutual funds as well. Again, this is based on my experience working in the industry. Last thing I want to talk about before I take all of your questions here today, and please keep typing them, is how to make money when stocks go down. Well, I have a course called the Complete Options course. And if you go to learn.harounventures.com, you can purchase this, okay? And there's a 100% 30-day money-back guarantee on everything. And a more in-depth version of this is in my MBA program. But I teach you from scratch on how to make money when stocks don't move, that's right. And also how to make money when stocks go down a lot. It's through what's called buying puts. And I have 30 different option strategies in here as well. Now, as part of that course, and as I mentioned, there's a more in-depth version available in my MBA program. You also get a ton of option spreadsheets that will help you value options. And I teach you how to value options, meaning making money based on volatility or lack thereof, or when a stock goes down and even up. I teach you how to value options based on 3 different methodologies, okay? Number 1 is what's called the binomial pricing theorem. Number 2 is Monte Carlo, and number 3 is something called Black-Scholes, which was created in part by Myron Scholes, who's a professor here at Stanford. I exchanged emails with him not too long ago. He got a Nobel Prize for it as well. And so I teach you all of these strategies on how to make money when stocks go down, or how to make a ton of money by investing a small amount and stocks go up. You can easily make 10 or 15 times your money, and the most you can lose if you buy puts or calls is a small amount you bought or you purchase as part of the put as part of the call. I recommend practicing for at least 6 months with this though, first please, before creating your first options trade. Okay. And for those of you that are curious about buying treasury bonds, and the best investment you can make right now, aside from investment education, I'm a little bit biased. If you're in the United States, you go to treasurydirect.gov, and this is a government website. And then you click here on how to buy Series I bonds, okay? And right here, you can invest risk-free and make 9.62%. Now you gotta leave your money in this bond for at least a year, and the most you can put in is $10,000 per year. And every 6 months, this interest rate changes. So if inflation is worse by November 1st, then the rate of this goes up a lot. If inflation is better, right, meaning inflation goes down, then the rate of this goes down. But even if we're in a deflationary market, there's no way you can lose money with this, okay? It's the lowest risk investment on the planet. And always do your own research, please. I pride myself on teaching my students how to fish instead of providing them with a fish. Yeah. I'm gonna change the color here because I like blue better. And then I'll take your questions. And this here is just behind the scenes here. These are my 3 wonderful kids. My oldest son, Andrew, who's on the left there, is starting Berkeley. He's doing engineering. And he starts it, I think, in a month or 2. I'm very, very proud of him. He takes after his mother, Christine, my wife, who's smarter than me. Yeah. All right. Let me get to your questions. Okay. First up, I've got Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you? Mike's in my MBA program. Great to see you. Mike wrote here, hi, Chris. I read that an inverted yield curve, meaning short-term treasury notes, have a higher interest rate than long-term notes, is a strong indicator of a pending recession, and that happened this week. Can you please explain this? Absolutely. So the way to find out what interest rates are or are going to be is you go to a government website called treasury.gov. Okay, and I'll teach you how the world works this way. It's fun too. So let's go to treasury.gov. Okay, treasury.gov. Here we go. Good. Okay. And what happens is this is a government website, and you click here on data, and then you click here on the daily yield curve. Okay, and this is how the market finds out or prices debt. Okay, like bonds and government debt as well. And what you can do here is you can look at the historical interest rates. Okay, so let's go back to January 1st of this year, first of all. And I'll explain the whole curve thing in a second, okay? So back on January 1st, the 1-month treasury, meaning government debt for the United States government, was at 0.05%, and the 30-year was at 2.01%. And it's important to monitor this because if you want to get a 30-year fixed mortgage, to buy a house or an apartment, you look at this. And of course, you pay more than 2% because you and I are more risky as an investment for a bank than the US government. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what the rates are today, and they're a lot higher. And the 30-year yield actually on most mortgages is about 6% today. So I'm going to scroll down. So again, this was January 3rd. And today, the 1 month here is 1.21. Okay, that's a massive increase. And the 30-year here, okay, is 3.39. It's much higher though for mortgages right now. Now is a tough time to buy a house, unless you want to buy land in Texas, which I think is a great investment because a lot of companies, including Caterpillar, CAT, ticker, from Illinois, are moving to Texas. Okay, so right here you see the rates have gone up tremendously. Now the way this works, the way to chart a yield curve is the x-axis is time, okay? And the y-axis here is the rate, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of random yield curves because it's easier to look this up instead of chart it. It'll take me a second to chart yield curve. So if we go here to yield curve and we click on this example here. Now this yield curve here, okay, just above my head here, hopefully you can see it. This is back from 2018. And right here, you can see that rates were low, okay? And then in the short term, okay, but a lot higher than today. And then rates were actually pretty close to where we are today now. And a lot higher in the long run, okay? And this is a yield curve. This basically prices here on the x-axis, as I mentioned, the time, and here is the yield, okay? And this is what a yield curve usually looks like. And when a yield curve looks like this, it's basically telling you that the economy is going to be better in the future because rates are going to be higher in the future. And when rates are higher, it's usually because the economy is decent, usually, and the government's going to raise rates. An inverted yield curve, though, okay, by contrast, it looks inverted. So you have higher rates now and lower rates in the future. And higher rates now with lower rates in the future, okay, indicates that people think we're going to be in a recession in the future. And back in 1999, when the market was on fire, as well as the economy was doing incredibly well, we had an inverted yield curve. Rates were higher, short term, and lower longer term, because people thought we were going to be in a recession in the future. Today, it kind of looks a little bit like this, because things can't get much worse than they are today, and people think that things will be better in the future as well. And if you have additional questions on that, please let me know, and thank you as always. Okay. Now, what the market does is they analyze every single word that the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says. Okay. And what they do is people will take the previous speech that he gave and paste it in Microsoft Word, and they'll take the most recent speech and paste it in Microsoft Word, and then they'll compare them both. You can do an auto compare in Microsoft Word to find out which language has changed. And some people were not as bearish yesterday when the government announced, or the Treasury announced, that rates are going up 75 basis points, because he kind of indicated in his language, which changed slightly, that he doesn't expect to do many more or any more 0.75% rate hikes. And that might signal that in future rate hikes, it'll only be 50 basis points or 25 basis points, which is what we saw the Bank of England do today. Okay. All right. Next up, Sam. Hey, Sam, how are you? Sam wrote, do you think the stock market is finally bottoming out? Are there any economic indications that suggest some positive growth? Not yet, but very soon we're going to find out what the GDP was for this current month. And whenever GDP goes negative 2 months in a row, it means we're technically in an economic recession. We'll find out if we're there in a couple of weeks when the government releases their monthly GDP numbers. And it's important to monitor this stuff because the government releases weekly jobless claims and monthly GDP numbers. By contrast, big companies only release information to all of us once every 3 months, quarterly, when they report earnings. And that's why everybody watches these statistics closely. People also look closely at retail sales statistics as well, because the health of the United States consumer drives global demand. And I know that sounds really out there, but the number one market, or the largest economy in the world right now is the United States economy. China, based on my models, will probably pass the US by 2040 unless it gets too communist. So the United States economy is the biggest economy in the world. And people don't realize that 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending. It's not big business. And so people tend to monitor US consumer spending closely. And so if you monitor the economic data points when it comes to consumer spending, and you see that consumer spending starts to increase more than expected, then that's kind of a positive indicator for the broader US economy. Okay. In terms of, is the market bottoming? It's so hard to tell. What I love to look at is an indicator called the VIX, which I explain in my options course and in my MBA program in more detail. And when the VIX gets to a high level, 70 or 80, that's the time to buy stocks no matter what. And for more details on the VIX, because I don't want to be repetitive because I talked about it in a previous webcast, what you can always do is you can go to my website, if I can spell my name, harounmba.com. And at the top here, you can search on anything. And I've done like 10,000 questions over the past couple of years that are all indexed here from all my YouTube calls. Okay, so I did a lot on the VIX here. You can watch that if you want to. You can type up anything you want to learn more about it as well, or click here to go directly to where I talk about certain things, certain topics in my MBA degree program, which you can sign up for by clicking right here. So when the VIX gets to 70 or 80, which only happens maybe once per decade, that is the indicator for you to back up the truck and buy stocks no matter what. Now, in terms of buying individual stocks, as I showed you with that template, I recommend doing deep research yourself. Don't ever rely on anybody on television to tell you what to buy or sell. The worst thing you can do is watch a CEO being interviewed on television and then you buy the stock, because CEOs are the best salespeople and nobody is smarter than you. And I always want you to do your own investment research. That being said, if you complete my templates and use my in-depth analysis to pick stocks, after you look at the fundamentals and the valuation, okay, and if they're all positive, all the indicators for fundamentals and valuation, and if you see a lot of upside to your target price in the long run, then you look at the technical analysis, which I teach in my MBA program. And if the RSI, meaning relative strength index, indicates a reading of 20, for example, that might be a good indicator for you to start buying. And you want to be a contrarian as well. It's the only way to make money in the stock market. And as Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. So now is the time to start rolling up your sleeves and doing investment research and nibbling at your favorite stocks that are oversold. And this was made by my son, Andrew. And I'm so sad, man. He's going away to university, but he's going close by. It's only like a 40-minute drive. He's obviously much older now. Very proud of him. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Sam wrote, what questions have you recently asked or will ask during an earnings call? Yeah, the questions that sell-side analysts usually ask, and the way it works is this. So companies report earnings every 3 months. And what they do is they issue a press release, usually after the market closes, usually. And in that press release, they basically have a couple of paragraphs talking about the quarter. And then what they do is they have financial statements below it, 2 sets of financial statements, one for accountants and one for finance people, meaning GAAP and non-GAAP. I like using the finance versions because it doesn't include non-cash stuff, and it helps me create financial models, which I teach you in my MBA program. Then what happens is the company, the same day, about a half hour after the press release hits, what they do is they have an earnings call, okay? And for the first half hour of the call, they pound their chest and say how great business was, even if it wasn't that great. It's true. They're great salespeople. Then what they do is they ask Wall Street and investors globally, do you have questions for us? And those questions are usually questions based on what the company didn't say, right? So if they didn't provide guidance for the next quarter or next year, people will ask about what the future outlook looks like, right? Or guidance. And they won't ask directly. And these Wall Street analysts are trained, kind of like lawyers are in a court of law, to ask questions that are not leading questions. So instead of me saying, tell me how amazing the future looks for your company, they'll say something like this. How should we think about the outlook over the next 3 to 6 months in your industry? And then what you do is you analyze every word that the management team says. And if they tell you that certain line items on the income statement are going to go up or down as a percent of revenue, then you update your model with that as well. And I show you how to do that in my MBA degree program. And a lot of questions center around long-term earnings growth, as well as operating margins and levers in the model. They also center on, a lot of the questions can be qualitative-based as well. For example, if management didn't talk about the impact of COVID on their business back in the March quarter of 2020, then analysts might ask about that as well. Okay. And if you have additional questions, please let me know. But I provide you with a list of about 30 questions that most analysts ask on these calls in my MBA degree program in the finance and accounting lessons in the second semester. And there's 4 semesters. Okay. All right, next up, Patricia, who's from New Jersey, who's in my Platinum MBA program. It's always great to see you. So Patricia wrote, Chris, good morning. Good morning to you too. Hope all is well, likewise. My question is, what happened to the cryptocurrency market, and is it likely to go lower? I only have about $5 worth. I bought it as a learning experience. Cool, yeah. So what's happening with cryptos now is the perfect storm, okay? Like that old George Clooney movie with the waves. The perfect storm is, on the one hand, energy prices are up materially because of Russia. And cryptocurrency miners like to mine, and they mine more if energy prices are lower. So there's not much of an incentive to mine cryptocurrencies right now in many parts of the world. Number 2, interest rates are rising. And whenever interest rates rise, then lower quality or riskier asset classes get hit quite hard. And so if you go back to the early 1980s, when interest rates were close to 20%, nobody bought stocks. Nobody invested in venture capital, hardly anybody. Hardly anybody bought property. They just put their money in the bank or bought government bonds because that was basically risk-free. And so it's kind of like that today. Because rates are going up, people are investing more money in bonds, right? It's risk-free, as I showed you earlier. You can make 9.62% guaranteed if you live in the United States and you buy treasury bonds, okay, savings bonds. So if I tell you you're guaranteed to make 10%, guaranteed, with no risk, you're probably going to buy fewer risky assets like cryptocurrencies. And to make matters worse, a third negative reason third reason why crypto is getting hit hard is you have some cryptocurrency trading companies that are putting up gates and they're not letting you take your money out, okay? And people think, oh my God, that's not fair, it's against the law. Well, what happens is when you sign up to use these cryptocurrency platforms or when you invest in certain large hedge funds, you click I agree to everything or you sign the paperwork, the subscription documents for hedge fund. And written in those contracts is stipulation that they can stop you from taking money out if volatility is too extreme. Also, Coinbase, ticker COIN, what they did was they just announced they're letting go 1,100 people, which is 18% of their workforce. And they just went public a year and a half ago. And if anybody's interested in learning more about Coinbase and their convertible debt offering, what you can do is you type Coinbase here, okay, on my website, harounmba.com, and then you click here and you can watch this video here on Coinbase's $1.2 billion convertible debt issuance. I published this a year ago, and basically I was talking about how Coinbase was raising a ton of money and they just went public. Well, you want to raise as much money as you can when you can. And I talk about what a convertible debt is right here. To learn more about convertible debts, you can watch that video there. Let me find out where I was here. Here I am. Okay. All right. And I provide you with all the tools to decide what cryptocurrencies to invest in my MBA degree program. It's a massive framework that's been updated as well. Yeah. And I don't recommend that anybody ever have more than, say, 5% of their liquid, meaning non-house, non-apartment, never have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in cryptocurrencies, because I do believe that most of them are a scam. Now, there are a bunch of cryptocurrencies that I think are wonderful long-term investments, and I publicly disclosed which ones I've owned And I've owned these ones for years, and I'll never sell. Okay, but do your own research. They are a Bitcoin as well as Litecoin, also Ripple and Ethereum. Ethereum has been one of my favorites because it's like a platform, and the best investments on the planet are platforms. Okay, and most NFTs that are created, and most ICOs, meaning IPOs for cryptos, are done on the Ethereum platform. Yeah, but again, I think most cryptos are a scam. I've said that for years. So just be careful. Just be careful, please. Yeah, it's not a regulated market, and it should be a little bit regulated, because behind the scenes, what you guys don't see is I have a lot of crypto videos, and whenever I publish a crypto video, there's so many scammers out there trying to get money from others by lying about stuff. Yeah, and so I've disabled comments on a lot of them. Yeah, it needs to be somewhat regulated, just like the stock market is regulated. Okay, and then Sam wrote here, next month I can start watching your webcast live again. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. And you can always watch the replays. And everything, every question asked is indexed, right? And it has been for the past 187 weeks. I can't believe I'm still doing this. I love it. It's only gonna get better. Yeah. And you can also do this. People don't realize that I have a podcast as well. So if you go to my website, harounmba.com, about, as we say in Canada, and you click here on podcast, I have a podcast I've never really marketed either. Yeah. I also have a subscription program now available on my YouTube channel. And I'll show you what it looks like. I'm transitioning a bit to more of a subscription-based business model. Okay, I'll still sell my courses as they are, but I'm working on something called MBA On Demand. And so if you click here on my YouTube channel, you can click join. And basically there's 3 different tiers. And I'll talk about this in more details in future weeks. But tier 1 is $9.99 per month. Okay, to help support the channel, all that stuff. And thank you for everything. I don't take any sponsorships. And so you get access to trophies. And if you've been a member for 1 month, you get this one, 2 months, 3, et cetera, whatever. You get emojis. You also get priority Q&A during this webcast. Okay, as well as access to a book of mine called Sales 101. Another book called The 30-Day Challenge to a More Productive and Happy You, as well as the Audible version of my 101 Crucial Lessons book. And you get 1 course every 3 months for free. Okay, and you can cancel anytime. The second of 3 tiers here is it's great. You get all 25 of my courses, all courses I've ever made, not my MBA one though, not my MBA degree, but all 25 of my courses. That's hundreds of hours for $29.99 per month. And you also get what's in tier 1. Now for tier 3, you get everything in tier 1 and tier 2. It's $99. And you get access to my MBA degree, the silver on-demand version. And there's tons of other perks as well from a networking perspective. So I just deployed this. I'm transitioning, as I mentioned, a bit more of a subscription program now for my content. And that's where the market's going longer term too. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, I've got, and oh, wow, thank you so much. Farhat just donated $10 Australian. God bless you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And any donation you give always goes to Project Magoo. Okay, it goes directly to Project Magoo. And Project Magoo is a school I'm building in Rwanda, and I'm trying to build one every single year. And let me show you some update pictures. Last week we did a ton of work, and I'm flying to Rwanda to cut the ribbon, potentially along with Paul Gauguin next in December. So if you go to projectmagoo.org, you can learn more about what we're doing. We're building schools overseas. Let me make that a bit bigger. And so last July we went there. And here's my son. He came with us as well. Right here, this is Vital, who graduated from my platinum program a couple of years ago. That's my boy. And we decided to build a school there. And let me show you some pictures of the progress. And when I went last summer, it was tough because of COVID. It was tough to get much done, to be honest. So let me do a search on Vital. And Vital came on this webcast a couple weeks ago as well. So we're almost on the first building. We're already teaching students right now. We're teaching students how to drive initially, because if you can drive, and there's no driver's license, permit, authorization, government body there, but if you know how to drive, you can make a living for yourself, right? And we're teaching them a lot more stuff in terms of industrial products and motorized vehicles, okay? But here's what it looks like right now. And what I'll be doing is, again, this December, I'll be going there most likely to cut the ribbon, okay? These guys are great. And then what I'll do is next year, we're going to go to Kenya, okay? And we're going to build another school in honor of Leah Soros, who's the mother of one of my students, Haroun Soros, who I met on this webcast a couple of years ago. Now, Leah is looking down upon Haroun, so proud of you from heaven, of course, but we're going to make that in her name. It's going to be a girls' school as well. Then we'll do Nigeria with another one of my students named Kemi Tade. Okay. All right. So thank you. So any donation you make here goes directly to that. Thank you. God bless you for that. So your question is, hi, Chris, can you give a belated birthday message to my friend, Debbie Lehman? She works as an account manager. Any good advice for her to be an excellent analyst and consultant? Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. And God bless you for that donation. Why don't you do this? Email me, okay, at support@harounventures.com. And what I'll do is I'll set up a one-on-one call with her to help her out confidentially with her LinkedIn profile. And I'll also give her my MBA program for free. And I'll give you one for free as well. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll give you the silver one. God bless you for that. Thank you. All right. Again, that's support@harounventures.com. All right. Next up, I have got here Pearl, who's in my MBA program. Good to see you, Pearl. And I see Pearl, I think, many weeks at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. with my Silver MBA program, meaning right when this call ends. We do a Zoom meeting, and there's only like 5 or 6 of us, so I see her every week there. And for those of you in the Silver MBA program, go to the first lesson, and you'll see where to click for the Zoom call. Again, that's every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. And so Pearl wrote, can you kindly explain more on the concept of pump and dump in terms of investing? Thanks. Yeah. So stock manipulation is against the law. And pump and dump, and I see it a lot with cryptos, with comments people leave on my cryptocurrency videos. And what they do is they'll talk a lot about a certain crypto that doesn't trade much and how much they love it. And then a lot of people will buy because of that, right? And then what they'll do, so they pump up the price. Then what they do is when the price goes up, they then dump it. They get out of it. And that's against the law as well. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what pump and dump means. And I actually caught somebody scamming and pretending to be me and telling people to buy cryptos, okay? And I caught this person, and it's an awesome video, and I got the police involved. I did not press charges, though. But if you want to watch the video of exactly what happened and how I caught this person, it was fun playing detective. You can go to harounmba.com, and at the top here, you could search on the word scammer right here with one M. I wish I could spell. Yeah. Here it is. Confronting a cryptocurrency scammer right here. Yeah. And so I caught this person and it was great. Pretend they were me. So I'm going to take a 10-second break. I'm going to show you this video, how I got the police involved to catch this person. And I will be right back. Okay. This is, just watch this video. It's something I'm very proud of, how I caught this person scamming. So here it is. There was this person that tried to pretend they were me. And try to get people to give them cryptocurrencies. If anybody watches cryptocurrency videos on YouTube and somebody asks you to provide them with their WhatsApp number, don't do it, please. Do not do that. And somebody, we caught the person that was doing it, and I'll show you how I caught him. Okay, here's what happened, okay? And I'll scroll through this with you guys here, okay? So this guy pretended to be me, so I pretended to be somebody else. I said, Chris, thanks so much. I'm a big fan. And this is a guy pretending to be me, okay? He said, you're welcome. What's your name and location? And I gave him a pretend name. And I said, it'd be a great pleasure to meet you one day. And then he wrote, likewise, are you new trader, Usman? And I wrote, I've been buying a lot of tech stocks lately and GameStop over the year. I spelled this wrong too, over the year. Crazy charts. And he said, do you have cryptocurrencies? And I wrote, not yet. But I know you teach about it. I bought your course. I saw your interview on NBC, yada, yada. It's an honor to speak with you. I was just pretending to be somebody else. And then he wrote, are you located in Pakistan? And I wrote, yes, on purpose, because you can't buy cryptos in Pakistan. And I wrote, yes, I'm in New York often on business. And this is the guy pretending to be me.
And he goes, I think Bitcoin is banned in Pakistan, but I have something else you can invest in. And I wrote, can I wire you money and you can invest it for me, right? He goes, how much are you proposing? I said $9,000, because if it's 10 grand in the US or more, you have to register with the government, right? And I wrote, thanks so much. And he goes, when do you intend to do it? I go, let me ask my wife. And I said, she's saying yes. He said, okay. When do you want to do it? And I said, anytime. Right now? Sure. And he said, do you have to go to the bank to set up a wire transfer? I said, no. And he goes, what's the time over there? Like, he's testing me. And I said, almost 5 a.m. in Pakistan. He goes, okay, I'll have to reach out to you and get you details. And then I wrote this stuff, which is a pretend made a spelling mistake on purpose. He said, I also need your full email. And I made that email up. And he gave me the person's name. Here we go. That's the person's name right there, okay? And where they live. And the SWIFT account was from Atlanta, or from Georgia, although their address was from California. So I caught them, okay? They kept pressuring me to invest, yada, 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 yada. And then he wrote, when are you going to do the transfer? And I wrote, very soon, I promise. And then I sent him this video here.
Good morning, whoever you are. Okay, so I have detectives that have been tracking all of this, IP addresses as well. I know people at Facebook, I've got access to certain APIs for WhatsApp. Also, the address you left in Southern California, probably not you, but I do have detectives looking into that. I also have detectives looking into the SWIFT code that you gave, which was from the great state of Georgia here in the United States. Again, we also have your IP address. I have YouTube at their headquarters here in San Bruno, just around the corner from where I live, looking into this as well. And so I could go into more details and come after you, but I believe as a Christian that I'm going to turn the other cheek, and I'm going to stop this investigation right now, just to give you the ability to turn your life around and not scam people. Okay, so all I ask for you, please, and I say this with love in my heart, is to take down that YouTube account. Okay, I can get YouTube itself to do a cease and desist here in San Bruno at their headquarters, but I'll turn the other cheek and let you do it yourself. That's just the type of person I am, and just know that the Lord Jesus Christ loves you very much, and it's not too late for you to turn your life around. Thank you, and God bless you.
And so, again, I believe there's one God, and there's many great religions out there. That's just a personal message that I sent this person. And then he sent back a message to me, thank you, I'm going to turn my life around right now. I then went back and checked out the YouTube account, and he changed it completely. Yeah, so if anybody asks you for money over YouTube, or when it comes to cryptocurrencies, please don't give in, even if they're trying to pretend to be somebody else. Yeah, so always do your own research. And I pride myself on humbly trying to help my students learn how to fish instead of giving them a fish. Because if you learn how to fish, you'll eat for a lifetime instead of just for one day if I give you a fish. And so what I teach is in my MBA degree program, in my cryptocurrency course as well, 49 steps on how to do your own research and decide whether or not you should invest in cryptocurrencies. Don't ever take my advice, or anybody's advice for that matter, when it comes to investments, because nobody is smarter than you. And I don't want you to watch television and learn from smart investors, so they speak gooder than us, about what stocks to buy. I don't want you to read editorials in magazines or online about what stocks to buy. I want you to do your own research always.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for letting me take that quick break there. I appreciate it. And what I've been doing is I've been getting one of these vitamin C things and putting it into my water, all of them, every day until I kick this and I'm 100% better. But I feel better and I sound, I promise you. Okay, cool. Thank you again for letting me take that quick break. All right, and like and subscribe, as my marketing people want me to say, if this call is helpful. Thank you. All right, next up, Zoralina, who is from Paris but lives in Ontario, who comes on my Silver Weekly call, wrote, "Hi, Chris. Always looking forward to your Thursday webcast. Do you have an update on Project Magoo? It's so funny. I just showed you a second ago. Thank you. And I know you typed that before we started today. Good to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you also on our weekly Zoom at 10 a.m. Andre, who's also my MBA program, wrote, "Good morning, Chris. 2 questions. Good morning. Number one, what is the Federal Reserve basis point? Yeah. So whenever you hear investors say basis point, it means 0.01%. So in April, I think it was, of 2020, on a Sunday, the government of the United States decreased interest rates by 100 basis points, which was unheard of. Okay, that means a full 1%. They did that on a Sunday, and I remember this well because my MBA students on the Monday said, Chris, the market crashed. I thought you said when rates are cut, stocks go up. Well, market signaling was awful then. Number one, they never cut rates on a Sunday. Number two, they never do it a full percent. And that signaled to the marketplace that the government knew something about COVID that we didn't at that time. Yeah. Your second question is, can you please explain the federal basics point and how that'll affect us as consumers and business owners? Thanks. Yeah. So basically the way it works is whenever rates go up, it stops us from spending money on stuff which cools down the economy and makes inflation go down. Now, the governments around the world will stop raising interest rates once inflation starts to go down, okay? So once you notice prices at the gas pump, for example, and everywhere else go down, that's a bullish thing because that indicates that the government's not going to be raising rates as much anymore, if at all. And again, it's smart to raise rates because when times are tough, you can always jumpstart the economy by cutting rates, which floods the market with currency, fake money here. Great questions, thank you. All right, and if anybody pastes or types in a URL, meaning an internet address, I don't see it for some reason. I don't know why YouTube strips it out. Yeah. All right, next up I've got Mindy, who wrote, hi Chris, hey Mindy. Can you explain what the yield curve is and why it's important when the number goes up? Awesome. And I went through that earlier again. That was a great question you asked before we went live today. Thank you. Speaking of Kenya and Marin and Leah, your wonderful mother, Marin wrote, Chris, hope you and yours are well and that you've recovered. Thank you. It's great to see you. And it was great seeing you yesterday as well. I enjoyed working on that financial model with you on BioNTech. Yeah. You wrote, please explain to me the circumstances that a company would choose to go public. Yeah. So a couple of reasons why a company goes public. It's for use of proceeds usually. And when a company goes public, what they have to do is they have to explain to the marketplace what they're going to do with the money. And so this is from a case study in our MBA program. This is the Facebook IPO prospectus or S1 investor document from the summer of 2012. And in this, they talked about what they're going to use the money for, meaning use of proceeds. So a lot of times companies go public. So what they can do is they can expand, usually overseas, into other markets. The secondary source of going public is to be able to pay out investors, meaning venture capital firms, as well as employees. And employees a lot of the times don't make a big salary, but they get a lot of stock options every year. And so they've got golden handcuffs and they can't leave. When the company goes public, a lot of those shares they were given, they're now allowed to cash in 6 months after the IPO date. And what happens is big companies will give employees shares every year, but they'll give them shares and they'll say, hey, if you stay with our company, these shares I'm giving you today, you can cash in 4 years. So every year they give it to them. And cashing them in is a euphemism or another word for vest. Okay, now when companies go public, there's usually two types of shares. There's primary shares and secondary shares. Primary shares are brand new shares that are created, okay? And these brand new shares are the ones where the company sells it, the company gets money, and the use of proceeds is to do whatever they want to do, like open offices overseas. Secondary shares are shares that already exist that are being sold to the public. And the secondary shares are sold usually by venture capitalists as well as the management team and employees and the early investors. And the way it works with secondary shares, and you'll notice that a lot of stocks go down 6 months after the IPO. And I know this because I used to short these stocks into that and then go long, rinse, ladder, repeat. But these the secondary shares are not allowed to be sold until 6 months after the IPO. And the investment bankers and government set it up this way to mitigate volatility. Yeah. Okay. And then Marin wrote, Chris, thank you for all that you do for us students. I appreciate it. You're most welcome, and it's wonderful to always see you. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Kevin, who's also in the MBA program, wrote, good morning, Chris from Lakeland, Florida. Great to see you. I love Florida, especially the tax code down there. I have thought about relocating there and sometimes Texas as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, I've got Peter, who's from Romania. He's 19. You're probably 20 now. Big football fan. Not this kind, the other kind. So Peter wrote, hey, Chris, what do you think about podcasts? You know, I'm a big fan of audio as an operating system. You know, there's a movie called Her with Scarlett Johansson and Phoenix, which where the movie is about an operating system, which is voice-based, Scarlett Johansson's voice. And it's very futuristic. Check it out. It's from 2003, a little bit out there. The operating system that's most important to me in my life right now is voice. I love it. When I get up in the morning, what I do when I'm showering and brushing my teeth, getting ready, is I do this. Alexa, what's the Wall Street Journal news this morning?
Here's something I found on
Alexa,
the web.
stop. Sorry, I didn't say it right. Alexa, what's today's Wall Street Journal news?
From the Wall Street Journal.
This podcast is brought to you by Google Chrome.
This is a podcast.
Increase team productivity and work smarter. Get proactive security with help from Google in every tab. If you're IT, choose Chrome browser for your enterprise.
Remember that.
To download, visit
Don't use Chrome, ever. It's
/Chrome
awful.
/choose Chrome.
Okay. And here's the news.
Here's your morning brief for Thursday, June 16th. I'm Keith Collins for the Wall Street Journal. The leaders of France, Germany, and Italy are in Ukraine for talks.
Alexa, stop. So that's the podcast I listen to every single morning. I love it. Yeah. All right. And then Peter wrote here also, what do you think about Chinese phone technology companies like Xiaomi and Huawei? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had issues with Huawei years ago because of what they did was they were basically taking the intellectual property of a lot of American tech companies and repurposing it illegally. I'm not an investor in China right now. And I pulled out of China about 1.5 to 2 years ago. So China, my whole life, China's been moving more right-wing, right? Less communist, up until COVID, moving more left-wing. And in the United States, there's a saying which is a company is too big to fail. But in China now, a company can be too big to succeed. And so I'm not an investor in China at this point. It's just too much geopolitical risk. I think the best place to invest in Asia is no longer Hong Kong. I think it's Singapore. I think a lot of companies' headquarters are going to be moved from Hong Kong in Asia to Singapore. Yeah. Okay. Next question. And then Peter wrote, thanks a lot. Have a great day. You too, and thank you. Eileen, how are you? Eileen, I hope you're doing well. Eileen was a platinum student of mine in my first year. Her last name is the most beautiful name ever. It's Deo Gracias, which is Spanish for thank God. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And total coincidence, but one of her best friends growing up in the Philippines, she lives in Atlanta now. One of her best friends growing up in the Philippines is my priest now, Father Peter, at my church. Small world. And I hope you had a wonderful trip to Europe, and you must be back now. Yeah, and I hope you're enjoying Ted Lasso as well. So you wrote, hello, Chris, back from our European vacay, and I got to visit the Ted Lasso neighborhood. Oh, you went to England to see that. Awesome. Yeah. Instead of the Dukes of Hazzard in America, they have the Earl of Risk there. You wrote also, this vacation was possible because I've set up my business to be more profitable thanks to the Haroun Education Ventures MBA. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great to see you again. I love your last name as well. And it was wonderful doing a webcast with you over Zoom and your son as well. Yeah. Very cool. Next up, we got, always good to see you. We got Mahir who wrote, hi, Chris. I hope you remember me from Udemy Conversation. Yeah, I have a team that helps me out with a lot of questions. Yeah, thank you. I'd like to learn what benefit the CFA can provide us. For me, the CFA can help us on very specific jobs in front offices like investment banks. Yeah, so the CFA, for those who are not familiar with it, stands for the Certified Financial Analyst designation. And the way you do it is it's basically 3 exams you write over 3 years. Now, what the company does, and it's very prestigious. I think it's better. You learn more in the CFA than you do in MBA in finance. Okay. But the CFA, basically, what they do is they try to charge you a fortune to buy textbooks to read to prepare for the exam. Don't waste your money. What I did was I bought books by a company called Schweizer, okay, which is owned by Kaplan, which is owned by the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos now. Yeah, Schweizer books. You can get them on eBay used for about $50. Do it that way. Yeah. Okay. I think it's a better investment than doing a master's in finance, or any MBA won't teach you as much about finance as that will. Yeah. 2 thumbs up. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor, Chris, please. Hope your COVID is gone now. Thank you. Getting a lot better, man. This thing's a bitch. Like, dude, in hindsight, and I feel kind of bad because in hindsight, what happened was I got the 2 Pfizer shots, and then after the second Pfizer shot, I got really sick for 5 days. And I told myself, I'm not getting the booster. I'd rather just get COVID. And I felt more sick after the second Pfizer shot than I have in the past month. But the problem is this COVID thing, like it lasts a long time. Like people say it lasts 2 weeks and that's it. I mean, you can't function for 2 weeks. Then afterwards you sort of can, but it still lingers within you as well. So I will be getting the booster shot. And I wrote, I feel bad because I hope I didn't influence anybody on this webcast to not get the booster shot before because of my irresponsible comments. Yeah. I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all, but I will get the booster in 3 months from now because I'm certainly immune for now. Yeah. Okay. You wrote, you look cool without a chair in your office. Thank you. I got rid of the chair finally. And years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, I used to sit down for these webcasts. And I got a couple of complaints from people saying that, a couple of complaints from people saying that I sound tired. And so I got rid of the chair and it was great feedback. So yeah, but I did sit down last week because of COVID. Yeah. Thank you. You wrote, I have a lot to ask this week as well. It's my 104th webcast with you. Thank you for that. You're most welcome. And thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Turn the air conditioning on. Okay. And then you wrote here, I live in Calcutta, India, because you asked me last week. I remember. Yeah. And I did mention we'll build a school there as well. You wrote, we will build a school together, brick by brick, piece by piece. That's a great initiative from your side. You're the godfather of online learning. No, thank you. Thank you. And the best show on TV now is, it's called The Offer. It's about the Godfather movie. It's gonna get a little bit of air in here. Yeah, it's about the Godfather movie. Again, check it out. It's the best course. Yeah. And then Eileen wrote in the middle here, Chris, congratulations to Andrew for getting into Berkeley. He'll be in state, which is amazing. It's great. It's great. And we'll save a lot of money that way as well. It's cheap. It's like, I think it's like $7,000 per semester for school, which is cheap, relatively speaking. And it's a good school too. And again, he takes after his mother. Yeah. Another beautiful day here today. Yeah. And then Manas wrote, everything is going down, whether it's crypto or stocks. Netflix is down 60%. The Federal Reserve has increased rates by 4%. What is going on, and will it dip more and more? Yeah. The way to tell when rates will stop increasing is when you notice that the price of goods stops going up. And the easiest one to monitor is the price of gas. So I would watch that closely as well. I'd watch other products as well to see if the prices are dipping. But it's problematic, and I'm worried about Africa, man. Really worried. If there's a drought there, or massive droughts, a lot of people are going to pass away because the bulk of wheat that Africa gets, especially North Africa, comes from Ukraine. And Ukraine was set up initially as part of the USSR years ago, the Soviet Union, to be the province or state or piece of land that feeds the whole country. So it's an issue. It's an issue. Everyone's feeling it. Even the price of pasta is up a lot now because pasta is basically wheat. Yeah. Yeah. So once you notice that rates start, once you notice that that prices of stuff starts going down, then I think we'll be okay. But that doesn't mean you can't invest. I mean, this is a great time to start looking to invest in companies that are massively oversold. Yeah. All right. And then you wrote, Russia is just going on and on. They're now using the ruble and using Russian passports in Ukraine. Do you think Ukraine is now gone and that the case is over, it's troubling. Yeah, it all depends on support from other countries and in terms of arms that they're going to provide Ukraine with, which pisses off Putin good. But yeah. But I don't think Putin's going to stop now at Ukraine. I think he's going to do other countries as well, which is scary. He's trying to reassemble the USSR. Now, his thesis during undergrad, he did a degree in geology. His thesis was, how can the Soviet Union, USSR, control all of the world's commodities? Yeah. And so his currency doesn't really matter, ruble. His currency of choice is commodities. Yeah. And as long as other countries continue to buy from him, then they're supporting it. They're supporting war. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, the United States is spending $100 million a day on Ukraine crisis. Do you believe it's good, or it should be reconsidered and maybe increased or decreased? Oil is at high price per barrel. Yeah. Or it's gone up 5x, you wrote, since World War II. Yeah. It's tricky. I do think the United States should continue to support Ukraine. And some people think that they think it's not fair. Why are you giving all this money to Ukraine? Why don't you just give it to to people that need it more in the United States, or people that need it here? Well, the thing is that the way governments think when it comes to finance is similar to the way investment bankers and investors think. They create a financial model, and they realize that if the price of oil stays at this high level for a long, long time, it's going to hurt the U.S. economy and all economies by this dollar amount here. And therefore, investing $100 million a day in helping Ukraine, it's the right thing to do from a humanitarian perspective. But it offsets the long-term negative financial impact of higher commodity prices. Right? There's a methodology to it. Yeah, and it's strategic as well. And in hindsight's 2020. But I'm sure the United States wishes they didn't pull out of Afghanistan. No one knew this was going to happen this quickly. But if you have troops in Afghanistan to stabilize the region, so to speak, it kind of acts as a deterrent to the Soviet Union, or to Russia, I should say, in terms of invading other countries. Yeah, it's sad, but to state the obvious, we're now in the second Cold War. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Renveer wrote, hello, Chris. Hey. What is your opinion on trading based on macroeconomic events like George Soros? Yeah, it's really, really tough to do. And so what George Soros did was he broke the British pound. It used to be a fixed based currency, fixed to a basket of other currencies in Europe and the American dollar. He broke it. He broke the Bank of England and forced the Bank of England to float to make the pound variable. And he made $1 billion in one day, along with many other hedge funds as part of the hedge fund mafia that jumped on board in that trade. He did the exact same thing with the Thai baht back in the late 1990s. He forced the Thai baht to go from a fixed currency to variable. He made $1 billion in a day, and he's not well liked there. And I think it was Suharto said some very hurtful things about him in Malaysia as well. And to learn more about that, what you can do is you can always go to my website, and at the top, do a search on Soros, or anything for that matter, as I talk about this stuff in my MBA program. And right here, I did a vlog on this, and I explained how he made hedge fund $1 billion in one day. And this is a while ago. So if you want to understand how fixed versus variable works and how he made $1 billion in a day, just do a search on that video. And thank you as always. I've done a lot of videos, man. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next question, which is, if Elon leaves Tesla today, which wouldn't happen, but if Elon leaves Tesla today, do you think it'll survive for a decade or more? That's a tough question. Yeah, well, the founder, so Elon was not a founder of Tesla. One of the co-founders is still there and still engaged. Now, I always get worried and I pull the ripcord and I don't invest in companies when all the founders leave. Now, if Elon does leave, it would be problematic from a marketing and advertising and execution perspective too. I mean, he did save the company. So the average company, like Coca-Cola, I'll give you an example. This is a prop for my options course. But Coca-Cola has $40 billion in annual revenue. And they spend 10% of that, meaning $4 billion on advertising. Have you ever seen a Tesla commercial? Neither have I. Elon is brilliant when it comes to marketing because he gets a lot of free PR and free publicity because he's controversial and tasteful as well. Yeah. And being controversial gets you free media attention. Sir Richard Branson and Mark Benioff have been doing this for decades. And so I think the biggest impact would be not just execution if Elon were to leave, but it would be in marketing. They'd have to start spending on advertising again. Yeah. Okay. And Elon is meeting today with Twitter. He's doing a town hall there. And it looks like the deal will probably go through. Yeah. Yeah. His timing in the market is perfect. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in March of 2020, when it was the end of the world and the VIX was at 80, he bought a ton of Tesla stock. He was unemotional. And then he sold most of those Tesla shares at a much higher price last fall, right before the market peaked on January 3rd of this year. Yeah. And that's part of what's called behavioral finance. You can actually track to see how a stock is going to do based on insider buying or selling, right? So if you're interested about that, you can look into a mutual fund where my best friend works called Fuller and Taylor. Dick Fuller and Richard Taylor were professors at University of Chicago. They got Nobel Prize in behavioral finance. Always try to see if there's a correlation between insider buying or selling and the stock price. And when I worked in the hedge fund industry, I used to always go short Activision, ticker ATVI, whenever Bobby Kotick, the CEO founder, was selling, and vice versa. Yeah. All right. Next up, Marin wrote, Chris, what does M, the cash position of a company, mean? And why is it important in an investment framework analysis or a balance sheet? Yeah. Okay, so when you look at a balance sheet for a company, you don't want to just look at cash. Because a lot of companies, they have a lot of cash, but they're like, if I just leave it in cash, I'm not going to make money. So they'll invest in short-term treasuries, okay, or short-term investments that are not that risky, but return a decent yield. So you always want to look at cash plus short-term investments. Yeah. And it's important to look at cash for obvious reasons. You know, if a company doesn't have enough cash and it's cash flow negative, then there's only a certain amount of time they have until they go belly up. And a little side note here, a lot of people like to look at high dividend yielding stocks and buy stocks with the highest yields. Don't do that. Do research first. Because if a yield is ridiculously high, like 20 or 30%, it could be because the company might run out of cash or there's some sort of litigation. Yeah. And for those of you that like to short stocks, just remember when you short a stock that has a dividend, you actually have to pay back that dividend too. All right, Ted. Hey, Ted, how are you? It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Ted wrote, just wondering, what is Andrew going to study in college? All the best to him. No, thank you. Yeah, so he's studying engineering. Yeah, and so he has to take a couple courses to get ready for it. And he's taken a great programming course on Python by the best online teacher ever named Angela Yu. Yeah, yeah, and thank you for the well wishes there too. Yeah, yeah. I just don't want him to come back too left wing. Sorry, I'm not supposed to tell my political affiliation. I'm not saying if I'm not a lefty, okay, I'm not a commie, but that school, you know, I'm going to shut up right now before I get myself into trouble. It's a wonderful school. Yeah. All right. Moving on to Manas, who wrote Binance and Andreessen Horowitz. You wrote A16Z because Andreessen Horowitz's website is a16z.com because between the letter A and Z and Horowitz is 16 letters. Andreessen Horowitz is a great venture capital firm. And I met Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz before. Ben went to my school. You wrote, Binance and A16Z have set up a $4 billion crypto fund for new projects and maybe ideas. How should one pitch to them or maybe get to have a chat with them because the opportunity is big? Yeah. And so just to put this in context, so probably the most important article ever written about cryptocurrencies was done by Mark Andreessen. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal in 2013. And Mark Andreessen said that cryptocurrencies matter as an investment class in the long run for three reasons. Number one is you can get access to the unbanked. A lot of people overseas don't have access to a bank. Number two, competition versus credit cards. So if I'm a retailer on my website, okay, and I'm trying to compete with Amazon. I have a retail website, for example, let's say. Amazon sells the same stuff. It's so hard for me to compete. And if my profit margins are only 1, 2, or 3%, and I accept credit cards, then that means that if I accept Amex, Visa, or MasterCard, which fees are between 1 and 5%, I can lose money. However, if I use Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general, the fees are basically zero. And so I can survive. And there's a third reason I can't remember, but just do a search on Wall Street Journal article 2013, Mark Andreessen. Yeah. All right. In terms of how to get a chat with them, so the first thing you want to do, and in my MBA program, I talk a lot about this, is how to create an amazing LinkedIn profile. Okay, it helps to sell you, get a ton of recommendations written about you as well. So a great way to brag, humbly, and then start to network with people that you have a secondary connection with that work at Andreessen. And Andreessen is a massive, massive firm. A lot of people. Yeah. So that's what I recommend. Yeah. Okay. And if you're in my platinum version of my MBA program, I personally, not my staff, me, I create your LinkedIn profile with you live during our one-on-one calls. And I promise you it helps you out tremendously. Yeah. And I'm going to say something that's not so humble, which is rare for me as a Canadian. Nobody is better in the world when it comes to helping you with your LinkedIn profile and selling yourself. I know that sounded arrogant, but I fight for my students so hard. And when my students succeed, I feel happier than they do. Or just as happy, I should say. No teacher wants their students to have as much success as I do. This is my passion, my purpose, my raison d'être. I don't take any corporate sponsorships. I'm all about helping the student, right? So I'm staying pure and true to my students. Week 187 is an example of why. Yeah. And that sounded kind of arrogant, which is not like me. Sorry. Okay. Next up, I've seen a lot of Canadians criticize Justin Trudeau. Why is that? You're a Canadian and you know him better. Smiley face. Why do a lot of people not like him? Yeah. Oh, this is tough. And by the way, if anybody follows politicians on LinkedIn or Twitter, please don't do that. Because if somebody sees it, half the people will like you, half won't. You know what I'm getting at. And I went to school with Justin Trudeau, and I got to tell you a really quick Justin Trudeau a story. Okay, so there was this, and I'm going to open up. I want to get some air in again. There was this, when I went to McGill University, there was this woman that was so gorgeous. She was not as gorgeous as my wife, of course, but she was so gorgeous, so out of my league. And nobody would talk to her. I mean, it was just unbelievable, right? And so in my 4th year at McGill, I finally got the courage and the confidence to go out and talk to her. And it was at this charity event right by the McLennan Library on campus. Nice sunny day in April or May. And so what I did was I went up and I started talking to her. Right? I was like, God, I got to do this. I don't care. I have to be confident. And she was actually talking back to me. Imagine that. And she was laughing at my jokes. And my jokes are awful. You all know how terrible my humor is. It was worse back then. And I'm talking to her. It's like a half hour goes by and we're still talking. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to ask for the sale, or I have to ask for her phone number, I should say. And I was going to ask for her phone number, but I just kept talking, whatever. And a lot of people in sales meetings, they don't ask for the sale. You have to. And then this guy walks up. He looks like Jim Morrison. He's got long hair, he walks up. And the second he walks up to her, she turns. And she's not facing me at all. She's talking to him, and she's laughing at his jokes. His jokes are not funny. Okay. And then I didn't know what to do, man. So I said to the guy, I said, hi, I'm Chris Haroun. Like I'm anybody, nobody. And he goes, Justin Trudeau. I was like, damn it. I can't compete with a frickin' Kennedy. So anyway, but he seemed like a nice guy about it. Sort of. Yeah. So anyway, that's my Justin Trudeau story. In Canada, so the way it works in Canada is you've got 2 primary parties. There's Liberals, which is more left-wing, and there's Progressive Conservative, which is more right-wing, okay? And Progressive Conservative folks don't like Trudeau because he's a liberal. That's what I'll say, Yeah. And some people think he's not as experienced as others, and I don't want to go there. Yeah. Yeah. And whatever you do, do not search for him dancing in India wearing Indian clothes. Don't search for that. Okay. All right. Next up, we have Bharadwaj. Great to see you. First time you've been on the call. I hope you join us again. Thank you. Who wrote, is it required for me to have the knowledge of models if I want to become a CEO of a company, or can I just have a general idea of how things work? Yeah. So the most important thing to become a CEO or a successful entrepreneur is the ability to sell. Yeah, that's the number one thing that CEOs have in common. You know, whenever they go on CNBC or television, they're interviewed. They're great salespeople, and they can motivate people in the company because they're awesome salespeople as well. They don't have to understand finance in a lot of detail. They do have to know the basics, though. Okay, and think of the CEO as kind of like the head of sales. And the head of sales or the CEO, great salespeople, they grow revenue, which is the top of the income statement. And then in a company, you have a CFO and finance folks that'll focus on all the other expense line items. So they have to have a general understanding of things like operating margins, revenue growth, that sort of thing. But they don't have to be a certified accountant. Yeah. Okay, next up, Hari wrote, very good morning, Chris. Hari, great to see you. And I'm looking forward to our weekly Zoom call in the Silver program at 10 a.m. today. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. Okay, and Farhat, thanks again for that donation. That goes directly to Project Magoo. Thank you. Okay, next up, question is, if this war continues for the entire year, do you think Bitcoin and stocks and oil will be at its lowest if Putin doesn't stop then? Yeah. I don't think Putin is going to stop. And there's too much pride involved with him right now. Yeah. And the Russian economy is nothing like it used to be. And I listened to Obama's book. I didn't vote for Obama, but I love him. I respect him a lot. Listen to Obama's book if you get a chance on Audible. It's amazing. He reads it himself. You will become a better public speaker just by listening to it because the way he articulates his thoughts is off the charts. But during that book, what Obama talked about was how when he met with Putin, Putin, he said, acts like, he's the third or fourth biggest, they have the third or fourth biggest economy in the world. And they did have a massive economy as part of the USSR years ago until perestroika and glasnost, and it broke up when the Berlin Wall fell, in late 80s, early 90s. But he walks around thinking like he's, the king of the world. The reality is that the Russian economy is like 12th or 13th in the world. It keeps contracting, and they're basically going to be irrelevant in the long run. And so what Putin is trying to do is he believes that the whole disassembling of the Soviet Union was a mistake. And so he is reassembling it. And he's not going to stop at Ukraine. So it's unfortunate from a humanitarian perspective. It sucks. But I think it's fair to assume that for the foreseeable future, next decade at least, Putin is probably going to keep trying to reassemble the USSR. Unless enough countries stand up to him. Yeah. Which hasn't really happened yet. Yeah. So I think it's just something we have to live with. And stocks did well during the Cold War as well. Yeah. And just remember that business is always business and economic growth is always cyclical. Things are great, things suck. Rinse, lather, repeat. Usually 10 years or so are the cycles, right? So yeah. All right. Next, Alan, how are you? Oh my gosh. Alan Curledeau, he's from France. He's the quintessential gentleman, very well spoken. He was one of my students actually during the evenings when I worked in BC. I used to teach at the school called the Hult International School of Business. And I think it was your class who voted me Finance Professor of the Year. Thank you for that. And it's great to see you. Great to see you. So Alan wrote here over 1,000 IPOs last year. Yeah. And he wrote, the average returns from day of listing until the end of last year was negative 10%. Late stage pre-IPO investors are deep in the red. Are pre-IPOs still worth it? No. So what's happened is, so over the past couple of decades, hedge fund performance and mutual fund performance has been awful. And one of the reasons why it's become awful is because back in 2002, there was a senator from New York State named Eliot Spitzer. And what Eliot Spitzer did was he created regulation called Regulation FD, meaning fair disclosure. And what that means is it's a beautiful thing. It allows you and I, as retail investors, to get access to the same information at the same time as hedge funds and mutual funds do. However, because of that, and because of the growth of ETFs, and because ETF fees are very low and ETFs have outperformed mutual funds and hedge funds, what a lot of hedge funds and mutual funds started doing was they started investing in private companies. And so what happened was 40% of all late-stage pre-IPO venture capital investing is now done by venture capital, or pardon me, by hedge funds and mutual funds like Fidelity. And so they've driven up the price of private companies a lot. Because private companies were staying private longer, they got more money. And so what happens is if you stay private longer, then when you go public, the stock's not going to go up as much, if at all. And so I think a lot of mutual funds and hedge funds have destroyed the venture capital industry. And I remember it was about 10 years ago, I was at the Palace Hotel at a big Goldman Sachs conference. And on the stage, Heather Bellini from Goldman Sachs was interviewing Bill Gurley, who's a venture capitalist from Benchmark. And Bill worked in my building as well, up on Market Street. I talk to him every now and then. He's huge. He's 7 feet tall. And Bill Gurley looked at the audience, right? And in the audience were like, I don't know, 700 or 800 hedge fund analysts and mutual fund analysts and portfolio managers. And he looks at all of them. And I'll never forget it because he's sitting on the stage and he's so big, his knees were like way up here on the couch. These are my Lululemon pants with my nice jacket. But what happened was he looked out at the audience and he said, you, all of you, please stop investing in private venture capital companies because you don't know what the hell you're doing and it's all going to end badly. And of course, the hedge funds were furious at this, but I loved it. I loved it. He was dead right. Yeah. So I would not invest in pre-IPOs. Yeah. And if you do it, make sure that they're preferred shares and not common shares. Preferred shares means you get preferential treatment. You don't get diluted as much as common shares. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Marin from Kenya, who lives in the United Kingdom now, who wrote, how do you analyze a company that has no debt liabilities as it paid all their debts due to the good financial book statements? The only liability is a lease, and you wrote, I'm looking at BNTX. That's a company we looked at in the model. Yeah. What we can do if you want is during gold and platinum MBA office hours today, between 11:30, 11:20 and 1:20, I'll go through the model with you in a lot of detail. I'm going to use what opera singers use to clear my throat. All right. It's called Throw 37, but it works. Yeah. Yeah. So if there's no, if there are no debts, then I would just really focus on the income statement to value the company. Yeah. And I'll help you with it as well today, I promise you. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, Coinbase laid off 1,100 employees in a day. That's 18% of its workforce. How fair is this? And what will happen to Coinbase when they'll need more people? Yeah. Yeah. It's never fair being let go. But when times are good, a lot of American companies and global companies and big companies for that matter, they overhire. And then when times are bad, they overfire. They cut into muscle, not just fat. Now, if you want, go to my website, do a search on Coinbase at the top for that video I made on Coinbase last year when they raised $1.2 billion in a convert. I think they're still well capitalized. I think they're just being conservative at this point. Yeah. And you wrote, thanks for everything. Manas wrote this. You wrote, God bless you. Thanks for the emojis. And your family forever and ever. You'll always be family for us. Thank you. Likewise, always great to see you, brother. All my courses will be available for Project Magoo in all schools forever and never. Thank you, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, Alan, thank you so much for donating 20 euros. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. That will go directly to Project Magoo. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I love my students. All right. Next up, I've got Manas, who wrote, regards to Andrew, Dylan, and Matthew, my kids. And then you wrote here, and their mom, bonjour to your mom and dad, who reads the New York Times every day. You're awesome. Thanks for all the emojis. I appreciate that. Thank you. God bless you. And if my mama and dada are watching, hi. And I did a webcast once from their apartment when they weren't there. And I think they're pretty upset with me because I did this prank on my parents at their house. And I'll show you the prank really, really quickly here. Sorry, give me 1 second. So let me go to my website here. It's kind of funny. And my dad always says, don't change Chichi. That's my nickname growing up, weekly webcast. So I did it from Canada a couple of years ago. I'll make this real quick. Yeah, there's my little sister Elizabeth there. Yeah. But I'm going to show you exactly what I did, right? So it was back in, I think it was late 2019. My God, I've been doing this forever. Here it is here. Yeah. Number 66 in Canada. So I started off this weekly webcast with, of course, Oh Canada. And then what I did was I showed you the prank I did. So what I did was I went to all of my parents' plugs in their house. And then I put a little mustache, you see here, everywhere. It was, I put it everywhere. Yeah, little mustache everywhere, even on my mom's thing there. Oh, you get to see what my dad looks like in a second with the mustache. That's the mustache I put there. I put it on all the plugs. There's me doing the webcast in that room there as well. This is their apartment up in Canada. Yeah, they spend most of their time now in Florida. I put one on Dylan there as well, a mustache. Hi, I'm 7.5. All the plugs. It drove them crazy, but it was funny. Elizabeth, my little sister, that's me when I was younger. And then I put one up really, really high as well. I put one on King Tutankhamun. My dad's Egyptian. I'm sorry, King Tut's gotta have a stash, Dad. And up there, I put one way, way up there. That's the only one that's still there because they can't reach up there. But anyway, I'm kind of a pain in the ass. I love pranks, as you know, and I got that on the interweb. Yeah, even in my dad's bathroom, right there. My mom's bathroom there. Yeah. Mom and Dad, if you're watching, I'm sorry for showing your bathroom, but it was kind of fun. I had to do it. All right, last one is here. Doctor, right there. Everywhere. Because I'm 7.5. Okay, let me go back here to. All right. Next question is from Haroun, who wrote, would you kindly explain the DCF with reference to the 100-step investment framework? I'm looking at this with reference to BNTX, a biotech you're looking at. Yeah. So during office hours today, if you want, let's do a Zoom later on today, and I'll walk through it with you in a lot of detail. So DCF basically means how much money is the company going to make every year in the future. And once you calculate all that money, as well as a terminal value, meaning between year 11 and infinity, you discount all that back to today in order to come up with a valuation on the company. I wouldn't do it that way, though, because with that biotech stock you're looking at, they're not profitable. They might not be for a while. And DCF is the worst way to value companies. But I have to teach it. It's the worst way to value companies because there's a lot of independent variables that go into the formula to discount cash. And so if I told you that x plus 1 is 3, what's x? It's 2, of course. If I told you x plus 3 plus 1 plus, I don't know, gold gun plus Coca-Cola bottle is 3, what's x? No idea. That's the problem with DCF. And 95% of the valuation of your DCF is usually the terminal value as well, which I'll show you today. What we're going to do is I'd like to value that company you're looking at. We'll look at the model today together during Gold and Platinum MBA office hours. I'd like to value it based on earnings and revenue. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Haroun wrote, would you kindly explain the buyback options with IPO companies? Yeah. So companies usually don't buy back shares in general when they go public, right? Usually they raise money, and the use of proceeds of the money is to grow or to pay off existing shareholders or let them cash out through secondary share sales. When it comes to options, that's kind of a different topic in terms of you get stock options. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, we got Sam. Sam wrote, what are your opinions on buy now, pay later? Yeah. BNPL. Yeah. And Apple's doing that a lot right now as well. Everybody's getting into it. Yeah. Are they just reinventing the wheel? They aren't doing well in the stock market. Yeah, credit's an issue now with all companies for obvious reasons because interest rates are going up. But BNPL, or buy now, pay later, it basically means, like it says, you buy now and then you finance to pay it off later. It's like buying a house, but for microtransactions. So when you buy a house, you put a down payment down and then you've got mortgage payments forever. for 30 years, whatever. It's similar to that. Yeah, it's just another way to finance transactions. Yeah, it's a growth market. I believe in the market longer term. Yeah. Okay, moving on to what are some of the top industries that should have long-term growth? Yeah. So whenever I invest in companies or I do due diligence, I always ask myself this basic question. In 5 years, will this company or the industry be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And so when it comes to social media, I think social media is going to be more relevant. When it comes to YouTube, I think YouTube is going to be more relevant. When it comes to the traditional automotive industry, powered by diesel or natural gas, I think that's going to become less relevant in the long run. And that's why all these auto companies are scrambling towards trying to get clean tech vehicles out there. So that's the way I think about it. In 5 years, is this going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And most tech sectors, or many tech sectors, are still secular growth sectors, meaning they'll be more relevant in the long run than they are today. Yeah. Just think about sectors that have not been disrupted yet by technology, because those are the ones that will probably be less relevant in the future. Yeah, like traditional taxi companies. All right. Next up, we got Pulasti, who wrote, "Hello, sir." Chris, please. "I'm from Sri Lanka." Awesome. Great to have you. What is your opinion about the Rich Dad book series, if you read them? I have not read them, sorry. Yeah. But you always want to live below your means, meaning spend less. Don't overspend. Because if you overspend, then when we go into a recession, your life is hell. Yeah. And if you want to read books about that, you can read 2 books. Number 1 is called The Millionaire Next Door. And the other one is a great Canadian book I read when I was a kid called The Wealthy Barber, which is about a barber that's a multimillionaire. Yeah. Live below your means. Okay, moving on to Tess. Tess said, "Good morning, Chris." Good morning, Tess. You wrote, "I'm Tess from Canada." Awesome, my people. I love it. "Do you think the VIX is an accurate representation of today's economic climate? Also, I sent you an email regarding tech issues with my teachables." Okay, thank you. If you sent that to support@harounventures.com, I'll check it later today. I check that twice daily. Thank you. Well, the VIX is kind of a high-level overview indicator of when a market is massively overbought or massively oversold. And so the indicator I like to look at, right? And I don't only use that as a signal in terms of when to buy or sell stocks. But the indicator I look at for the VIX is when the VIX is above 70 or 80. No matter what happens, I buy stocks. And it rarely gets there. It got there during the fall of 2008 when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working. And it got there during March of 2020 when people were worried about what COVID is going to do to the markets. And everybody was overselling everything. There was mass panic. And people were selling oil futures as well, to the extent that the price of oil went to negative $20. That's right. In March of 2020. How the hell can oil be negative? Well, it was negative for a short amount of time because these big tankers in the Black Sea and all over the world that hold oil, it costs them $600,000 a day to actually hold that oil. But the market got too emotional, and things are never as bad as we think they are, and things are never as good as we think they are when it comes to investing. But if and when you see the VIX at any point in your life go above 70 or 80, it will one day, then that's your opportunity to buy more risky stocks. But you can still buy stocks now that are oversold. Yeah. After you do your research. Yeah. Thank you. And great to see you. Okay, moving on to Adiposi. Hey, Adiposi, how are you? I talked about you earlier today when I talked about the dogs of the Dow theory, which I learned from you yesterday during our Wednesday Golden Platinum call. Thank you. And you had a wonderful quote you shared with all of us when you introduced yourself to us on June 1st. You said that you realize your purpose through feeling pain, or with pain comes purpose. Yeah. And I believe in that too. And anybody out there that's frustrated at work, good. I say that with love in my heart, because I want you to harness that frustration and let me help you to get a better job or get a promotion or heck, start your own company. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, you look really sharp in that suit. Thanks. It's fun playing grown up, but I still wear my Lululemon pants. Yeah. Great Canadian company represent. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Eileen, who graduated a couple of years ago from my Platinum program. I met with Eileen here in the Bay Area during graduation in December, and also when I was in Atlanta, Hotlanta. And she told me when I was in Atlanta, Chris, whatever you do, because, Coca-Cola is based there. She said, Chris, whatever you do, don't ever order a Pepsi in Atlanta. And my son, Dylan, overheard it. And so, of course, every time we went out to dinner, he said, do you have Pepsi? And the waiter was like, yeah. I don't know where he gets that from. Yeah. So Eileen wrote here, Chris, regarding Andrew, if he went to UGA, he might get too right-wing. Okay, right. Georgia there, yeah. Anyway, he was at Georgia Tech, actually, last summer. That's why we were there. And then you wrote, LOL, my take is this, is that I provide my kids with the information and share my opinion on it, but I don't expect them to agree with me. Yeah. No, and kids quite often do the opposite anyway as well. And that's why you use reverse psychology when they're younger. Yeah. No, it's up to him. It's up to him if he wants to even go to university. Yeah. All right. And then Eileen wrote, but I do hope that that we have shared enough of our values with our kids that they would form their own opinions, and that it would result in the greater good for society. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And Eileen has a son and a daughter who are very successful, and a husband named Norberg who's hysterical. Yeah. Thank you for that. Moving on to Anand, who wrote, good evening, Chris. Hi. What is the RSI in the market? How does it work? And what is the ideal RSI level? Yeah. So I'll show you here with random stocks. So after you do your research on fundamentals and valuation, and you complete the investment write-ups I provide you with in the MBA program, what you can do is you can look at technical analysis. And pardon me. And what technical analysis will do is it will kind of help you understand when a stock is oversold. Okay, looks like the market is still digesting what happened yesterday with the federal rate hike. Okay, so let me go to Tesla, I guess. Okay, so the RSI, what you do here is and don't ever pay for any market data or opinions from anybody, please. But you go here to charts, okay? And then once you have the chart here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my face off in the corner. It's like a Canadian hockey reference, eh? All right, here we go, good. All right, so let's look here at the chart of Tesla, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the relative strength indicator down here to the bottom. And the way you do that is you go here to indicators, and then you click here on RSI. And whenever you see a reading of 80, meaning the green line, that means sell, right? After you do your research, obviously. And whenever you see a reading of 20, that means buy, okay? The red is buy. And this will make more sense in a second. It doesn't always work though, please. Okay, so let's go here to just a 2-year of Tesla. Here we go. And down here, we have the RSI. Okay, so right up here, it got to a reading of 91, which is insanely overbought. And that was last fall, November. And that's when Elon was selling shares in Tesla. Okay, so you sell there because it's overbought. And lo and behold, it worked, right? The stock actually consolidated lower. And we haven't gotten to oversold in Tesla in quite a while. Let me see here. The red line is 30 at the bottom. Right here almost did, and then you saw a little bit of a bounce, well, a big bounce. The stock was 37, and then it went up to 52. And some people like to look at 30 and 70. I'm traditional when it comes to this, old school. I like to look at 20 and 80. And if you have additional questions about that, please let me know, and thank you as always. Again, what I want you to do, though, is I always want you to focus on fundamentals first, valuation second to come up to your target price and be long-term focused. And a distant third is technical analysis. And sometimes with my stocks, whenever they're massively overbought, I will take profits in part of my position, as long as I've owned the stock for more than a year, because if you own a stock for more than a year and then you sell, you pay less in capital gains taxes. And that's the way it works with most governments around the world, is governments, they hate volatility and they always want you to be long-term focused. And the way they incentivize you to be long-term focused is you usually pay more in taxes if you sell stuff in less than a year. Again, governments hate volatility. All right, Rubina, how are you? Rubina is in my my MBA degree program. She's from Pakistan originally. She lives now in the United Kingdom. She's wonderful, and she's building. I think you're building a school for women, which I'm going to help you with as well. Yeah, great to see you. You wrote, "We appreciate you, Chris. I appreciate you more." And so Rubina wrote, "We haven't met in person yet, but I can feel how humble you are in everything you say. Thank you." No, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to meeting all my students as well, but. When you meet me live, it'll shock you because I'm a really small man. I'm tiny, okay? I'm a really tiny person. Yeah. So, no, I'm kidding. I'm about 6 feet. With my hair now, 'cause it's getting bigger. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to meeting you. Thank you for that too. Christina, how are you? Christina is our fearless leader. She is the head of the Haroun Education Ventures Alumni Association. And Christina, my wife Christine, wanted me to thank you for helping Andrew, or giving Christine the idea to get a job working in construction, which he's doing now. He's building schools in San Jose. She told me specifically to thank you, and Matt Lacuse as well, of course, who I work with. Yeah. So thank you for that, Christina. You are selfless. You're amazing, and that's why Peyton Kalawahea, who's with the United States Navy Surface Warfare, who graduated last year from MBA program, coined you as our fearless leader. So Christina wrote, "Good morning, Chris, and our amazing global webcast and MBA family. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you. Hope you're having an outstanding week so far. Cheers, Chris. I'm at 10 a.m. water and 700 steps. How about you?" Yeah. For me with water, oh my God, that's terrible, dude. I'm not even at 8 a.m. today. No wonder I'm still sick. In terms of my steps, I think I've probably only taken about 100 so far. Yeah. And for those of you curious about how I take my steps, I usually, when I'm feeling good or great, which is most of the time, I get 20,000 steps a day, usually, on my treadmill here while I work. And so what I do is I push this button here, which brings the keyboard up, better for my posture, and I get my steps here. And the fastest this thing goes is, I think, 6 miles an hour. I'll show you. Yes, my desk is messy, keeping it real. All that equipment, yeah. So this is the fastest it goes right here.
This might answer your question. I don't have that info.
Alexa, I don't remember asking you anything. Yeah. All right.
Thanks for the feedback.
Oh, you're welcome. More coming there as well, I promise you. Yeah. So that's it. This is how I do it. It's a little bit crazy, but let me turn this off now. And I've got, of course, an air conditioning system in here as well to keep it cool, because I got lots of lights and computers and stuff. All right, so I got my steps in for the day. Great. Yeah. Perspiring a bit. And like all people on television, you have to, or Zoom calls, you have to use this stuff. Go to a drugstore, ask somebody to match my skin color with this stuff, and then go to Sephora to buy the brush. Yeah. All right. Next up, I have got Pulasti, who wrote, "Sir, call me Chris, please. I enrolled in the complete options course and the complete cryptocurrency course on Udemy. You're a great mentor." Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And during my MBA program, I also answer a lot of real-time questions on current market environments, stocks, etc. during the Q&A sessions. Yeah, keeping it real. Thank you. Satons, who types all in caps, and I always love it because you remind me of my grandfather who always wrote in caps. So Mark is from Detroit. He graduated from my MBA program last year. He's a great guy, and you helped me get better on COVID too, because you told me about that buddy of yours who's a pharmacist who puts an entire one of these things in this every day, and this actually helped me. These are vitamin C's. Yeah, thank you. Great to see you. Yeah. And Mark is like Google. He knows everything about everything. Yeah, always fun to talk to. You wrote, "Hello, brother. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Likewise. How do we gather historical data for businesses like you did for our options class?" Yeah. So what you can do is you can always go to Yahoo Finance and export all the historical data on a company going all the way back until 1980. Okay, and that will just give you all the stock data. If you want to get historical data on financials, you can go through the SEC.gov filings for that company, or what you can do is this. I'll show you what Wall Street loves to use now. So what Wall Street does is they all use this product here called BAMSEC, okay? And it's $30 a month. You can get 1 month free. and keep giving different email addresses. Don't do that. But here what you can do is, let's type in, I don't know, Tesla. When you see the financial data here, you can actually export it, okay? And so this here is the 10K. And so when I go down here to any financial statement, so you can export this, right? So you can download this table and export it directly. It's not a financial statement, you know what I'm getting at, into Excel. So you don't have to worry about putting certain numbers in columns or changing decimals and stuff. So you can do that. Now, to get historical data on anything, you can go to the, you can go to the World, United Nations website, and the IMF, actually. IMF is better, I think. Yeah, the IMF's website, International Monetary Fund. And you can download a ton of historical data here as well, right? It's IMF data right here. See here? There is a ton of data. It's unbelievable. You can slice and dice and export data. Yeah, it's an incredible free resource as well. And there's others as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Pablo wrote, I just finished one of your Udemy courses, and it was amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. You wrote, thank you for all the info you provided. You're most welcome. Will there still be a Forex market? Will it be the same, or will it be different due to crypto? No, it'll always exist. Always exist, yeah. Traditional paper-based currencies are not going away by any means. And if cryptocurrencies get too powerful and hurt the ability for governments to change their interest rates or to raise money using bonds to defend the country or whatever they want to use it for, then they'll make cryptos illegal. And the more left-wing a country is, I mean the more communist, the more likely it is to make cryptos illegal. And so there will always be a Forex market. And right now there's a massive bubble in cryptos. And I've been saying this for years. Most cryptos are a scam. There's a bunch that are great investments though. And I'm still looking for the Google of cryptos. It's not out there yet. I thought it was Ethereum. It's not, because of Ethereum, there's no limit on supply of shares, although I love Ether. So no, there's more cryptos out there now than traditional paper-based currencies. And if you go to CoinMarketCap, you'll see just how ridiculous it's gotten. And it's an unregulated market, and there's tons of scammers per that video I showed you earlier today. So if you go to coinmarketcap.com, you can see here tons of cryptos. It's endless, right? It goes on forever. And here you can sort by market cap. You've got 100 pages at 100 lines of data. So that's about 10,000 cryptos here. Yeah, 9,978 to be exact. Yeah. And you can sort it here by market cap, see what the biggest one is. So right here, Bitcoin's the biggest, then Ethereum, then Tether, which is used just to transfer one crypto to another, and then the rest of them down here. Oh, wow, Cardano's getting bigger than I thought. Yeah, but there will always be demand for Forex markets when it comes to traditional currencies. Yeah. Traditional currencies are not going anywhere. Yeah, they're staying. All right. All right, next up, Rose. Rose is from the great state of Virginia. She graduated from my MBA class in the first year, and she headed up the yearbook then and did a great job. Rose wrote, as somebody who lives a couple miles away from University of Virginia, I would avoid that school like the plague. They put on a show for tourists, but everyone who lives here knows what really goes on there. The teachers are great, academics are great, but the students and the community are absolutely horrific. My cousin wanted to drop out because of all the racism she experienced there. Oh, that's terrible. It's terrible to hear, yeah. And my son Andrew and my wife, they visited the school, and Andrew decided not to go there. Thank God. I didn't know that. That's terrible. Just terrible. Awful. All right, and thanks for sharing that feedback. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, I have got Book My Service Goa Team. First time I've seen you on the call. I hope you join us again. Who wrote, please drink water. You are live for quite some time. You're right. You're right. And I remember I used to do these things all day long. Yeah. And I sort of do because I do it for my my MBA students. And I got to wrap up this call very, very soon because I've got the weekly silver MBA call. But thank you so much for that. Okay, Eva wrote, hey, Chris, hey, what do you think about the ready-to-print business of merchandise online? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a sector that, like, whenever I look at investing in a sector, I ask myself, 5 years from now, will it be more relevant or less relevant? And so, ready to print business cards online, although I use them sometimes. I think that business cards are a thing of the past. And in 5 years, more companies will be, completely paperless. Yeah. So I mean, I use Vistaprint every now and then, but I certainly print a hell of a lot less today than I did back then. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Pulasti wrote, I'm thinking to enroll in your silver MBA degree program next year. Is there a time limit to enrolling in the course? No, once you enroll, you get access forever. I've got a sale going on now at half price. Usually it's $1,000. We got it at $499 now, and you can always go to learn.harounventures.com to learn more. So this is silver. You can start right now. And as I create new content, I always had it here as well. This here is and I haven't really marketed this yet, but on September 30th, that's a Friday, I have the new Platinum class. It's going to be every Friday for a year, and a new Gold class. Again, starting on Friday, September 30th, from 9 a.m. my time till 3 p.m. my time, every Friday. Currently, we have, this is the Wednesday one that started June 1st. It's sold out. I've also got all access bundle, 9 courses for $49. And I've got something here also. I just added it. I haven't advertised it. I don't know. I might change it a bit. I'm not sure yet. But here, for $29.99 per month, you get all 25 of my courses. Basically everything I've ever made, not including the MBA stuff. Yeah, cancel anytime as well. Yeah. All right. All right, but you have access forever. It's your MBA on your terms. All right. Okay. And then Daniel wrote, hi, Chris, I completed the HEV MBA. Thank you for putting it together. I'll put a thank you note on LinkedIn. Best, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. And I think I saw an email come through from you yesterday or maybe this morning. Asking for the certificate, which I'll provide you with. And I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. Yeah. And so what you can do, and if you print the certificate I'm going to give you in PDF format and PNG format, if you print it, it's 8.5 by 11, and you can order one of these frames. Just go to Amazon. In fact, if you go to the last lecture in the Silver MBA program, it tells you how to get this frame from Amazon for like $20 or something. Yeah, I don't make any money on that. Yeah, congratulations and thank you. Yeah, and please join us at 10 a.m. today if you want to as well. You have access to that forever. It's a 1-hour Zoom call for silver only. Yeah. All right. Next up, the Berlin, who's from San Bernardino, who's in my platinum program. Great to see you. He wrote here, good morning. The Fed keeps serving up guacamole, but people ran out of chips for the dip. There's a shortage on chips. Yes. And I love that analogy, and it's something we talked a lot about before. The best way to understand what the Federal Reserve has done and how the Fed controls interest rates is as follows. Let's say you go to a grocery store and you notice that, the price of avocados is $1. Then you go to the grocery store the next day and you're like, oh my God, price of avocados is $4 now. What's up with that? And I got to wrap up this soon. The price of avocados is $4 now. And so you go to the store of the manager of the grocery store and you say, I noticed that the price of avocados went from $1 to $4. What happened? And the store manager tells you, oh yeah, there was a shortage. Actually, there's a drought in Mexico. And that's where we buy here in California, all of our avocados from. There's a drought in Mexico, and so the supply of avocados went down, and so the price went up a lot. That's exactly how it works with interest rates, except the manager of the grocery store, the manager of the store of money is called the Federal Reserve in America. In other countries, it's called the Bank of whatever. And basically what happens is similar to avocados, the manager of the store of money, if they decrease the amount of dollar bills out there, then just like with avocados going up in price, the price of money goes up. And that's how they control interest rates. Okay, I see there's a number more questions here. I'm so sorry I won't be able to answer them. If you're in my silver MBA degree program, and you could sign up by going right here, I'll see you in a couple minutes at 10 a.m. We'll have our weekly 1-hour Zoom call. And if you're in my gold or platinum MBA program, I'll see you at 11:20 today for our 2-hour weekly Zoom call. And then I have one-on-ones after that with my platinum students. But if you're not in any of those programs, please just copy your questions and then ask me again next week. And thank you so much for the donations today, everybody, to go directly to Project Magoo. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week and every week forever at 8 a.m. My time, Pacific time. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and take care. And as always, I end with this video that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association, which is an interview with Steve Jobs. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.